Hello everyone, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us today for the Innovation for Cool Earth Forum, the 9th annual meeting hosted by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry and New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization. Now, let us begin. Conversation between ICEF Steering Committee and youth experts. First of all, I would like to introduce two moderators for the session, Mr. Tanaka Nobuo and Professor Kuroda Reiko. Mr. Tanaka is the chair of ICEF Steering Committee and former executive director of the International Energy Agency. Professor Kuroda is a member of ICEF Steering Committee, designated professor at the Frontier Research Institute at Chubu University, professor emeritus at the University of Tokyo, and member of G7 Germany Gender Equality Advisory Council. The speakers for the session are Ms. Asano Yukie, Mineral Resources Diplomacy Staff of Metals Strategy Department at International Affairs Division, Japan Oil, Gas and Metals National Corporation. Ms. Anne-Catherine Merce, Research Assistant, Carbon Management Research Initiative, Center on Global Energy Policy, Columbia University, Research Associate, First Ammonia, and Master's Students at School of International and Public Affairs, Columbia University. Dr. Wan Nan, Vice President, Sustainable Business Origination Team, Sustainable Business Office, Solution Products Division, MUFG Bank Limited. Ms. Yuki Chika, Division 3 of Africa Department, Japan International Cooperation Agency. Mr. Rubin Furi, Head of Government Affairs and Berlin Site Operations Manager in APTA. Dr. Leila Niamia, Research Scholar, Energy, Climate and Environment Program, International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis. Dr. Aditi Verma, Assistant Professor, Nuclear Engineering and Radiological Sciences, University of Michigan. Now, I would like to ask Mr. Tanaka to moderate the session. Mr. Tanaka, if you please.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. This is the first occasion that we make this kind of dialogue with young generation participants. So we'll see what kind of fun we can have with all these participants. Well, 2 years ago, I started to urge the Secretariat to make up gender balance right in the panelists, and they did a great job. I'm overwhelmed with so many women panelists here today. And also, because I felt that climate change is not gender neutral. The women are impacted more seriously than men, while women can make a difference by participating in the politics or corporate decision. So generation is the same thing. Climate change is not generation neutral because younger generations suffer more by living longer than us, the older age. So this generation participation is very, very important for the ICEF. So this is the second year we are starting this. And Kuroda Sensei is really provocative about getting younger generation here. And we have a really good success. So let's listen to the participants and how they felt this ICEF and how can they contribute. Do they like it? Do they hate it? Or irrelevant? Or whatever the comments. So we are very appreciative of. So let's start with Asano-san of JOGMEC. Asano-san, the floor is yours.
Yes, so hello everyone. My name is Yukie Asano from JOGMEC. I'm honored to be invited to ICEF. Thank you very much. And so, as you all know, metals and minerals resources, including critical minerals, have received a great deal of attention in the past few years due to the energy transition and the supply chain crisis. So I'd like to say no minerals, no energy transition. I speak in Japanese now. So
So as I have just mentioned, these important metals, without these, the energy transition would not be able to be realized. For instance, so these materials like cobalt or nickel, these rare metals, these are used in very important materials, and also rare earths, which is used for power generation. These are also important for modals for EV as well. And all these requires electricity for this process. So there's also some of the copper is necessary to really use this electricity. Copper has always been treasured, but of course going forward the importance will be even much more in terms of the copper. So I have just shared with you the current situation with metal sector, but indeed, this is a wonderful opportunity to interact with all the young academia in light of climate change. So I do look forward to the discussion today. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Let's move to Anne-Catherine. She's from Columbia University and participated in the low carbon ammonia roadmap. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm here at the ICEF conference for my work on the low carbon ammonia roadmap, and back in New York City, I work for the Center for Global Energy Policy and for a green ammonia startup. So for my remarks today, there's a few things that have been going through my head that I wanted to talk about. So first, what I find really interesting as we're talking about all these innovative technologies is that how it feels like the greatest barriers that we have are human barriers. So it's issues with politics and regulation and finance. Often the technology we need is already there. And for climate change, I'm often fascinated by the degree to which we sometimes lack this sense of urgency to really address these human barriers. So I'm originally from Germany, and it's been fascinating to see with the natural gas crisis that we have, how the entire country is mobilizing for efficiency. And so how when we have this sense of crisis, how much we're able to accomplish, where everyone in my family is getting heat pumps and we're going to have tremendous efficiency gains because of it. And so despite how tough the situation is, we also see how when we have this sense of crisis, there is so much we can accomplish. And I sometimes find myself wondering when we're going to get to that point where we really start taking more dramatic action for climate change. That said, second, as I'm here in Japan for the first time, it's really exciting for me because I work in the hydrogen and ammonia space, and Japan is really one of the leaders here. And I just wanted to say that everything you do here has ripple effects around the world. So I work for an ammonia startup, and in the United States, investors have heard about hydrogen before, but don't know that much about it, but they've rarely heard about ammonia, and they're often skeptical when we approach them. But then when we tell them about what's happening in Japan, and about announcements such as JERA's announcement to move from coal to ammonia, then investors realize how big and important this is. And so this is just to say that everything bold that we do, be it if it's a Japanese government or a company, anywhere around the world, it has ripple effects and helps us as we push for ammonia in the United States. And then the final thing that I find myself thinking about at this conference is here, in some ways, I'm preaching to the choir. Like, we're all here because we care about climate change and we see the importance of these technologies. And I think so much of our work is then to take the discussions we have here and go beyond, be it country to country, ministry to ministry, company to company. It's a pleasure to be here because we're reaching out across different age groups and to really take that message, because in the end, we have to build global supply chains around the world. And so I think that international angle is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ansan. I learned that JERA and Uniper is going to have a collaboration on ammonia and hydrogen in the future. That's a Japan-Germany collaboration.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm all here for the Japan-Germany collaborations.
Good, good, very good. Thank you. Next is Yuki-san of JICA, and she was in the non-CO2 GHG reduction. Yuki-san, dozo.
Okay, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to have the opportunity with you here today. And I work in JICA, especially on Africa, in the major agricultural, on the agricultural sectors. And through my working experience, I feel the gap between the developing country and developed countries, and also a gap in the central government of Africa and the people in the field in Africa. So in the central government in Africa, they are very eager to translate their agricultural sector into green, climate, environment friendly. But when we look into on the people in the field, for example, the local government or farmers themselves, they don't have the deep understanding on the climate change, and also they don't know what they have to do to tackle to climate change. So my concern and my interest is how to involve the people in the local, in the field. So what I want to talk today is how we can share our concept and our strategy to local people and involve them to our actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuki-san, very good. Next speaker is Ruben Fury from the ENAPTA. He was in the hydrogen and e-fuel, e-methane session.
Yes, nice to meet you, everyone. I'm very glad to be here. I'm speaking from Germany, but I'm originally from Italy, and I'm so glad to be able to work for a company that it's actively recognizing how urgent climate change is, and recognizing how how is not socially neutral, like it has been discussed now. So we really are working really hard to create economically feasible solutions for the future of youth and the future of industry and economy overall, taking in consideration as much as possible neutrality from a point of view of gender and economic standpoint. So we're really up for creating a next generation energy system based on green hydrogen, and that's what we are all about. And I've also had a 5 minutes presentation about this just in a session before. So I'm happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Fury. Next speaker is Dr. Laila Nyamio of IASA. She was on the panel of demand-driven energy transformation transition. Laila, you have the floor.
So much. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in such an exciting panel of the young generation and exchanging the thoughts. Just briefly, as you mentioned, that I'm working at the demand side, particularly on how we can bring this bottom-up and microdynamics to the assessing the transition to low-carbon economy. So, which I actually presented in a previous session. Here, you asked us to bring some remarks about the young scientists and young generation and basically intergeneration. I have a very short 2 remarks. One, first of all, I believe when we are talking about the global comments and particularly climate change, we should not put a border between scientists, policymakers, and public. Bringing together different area is extremely important. Involvement and inclusively is the key here. Basically, decarbonization requires a massive worldwide effort contributing by scientists, policy, society, and strong involvement of the regions, cities, businesses, individuals, in addition to commitments of the national levels and international levels. So far, we are actually coming from my direction of looking for social science. We are observing there are lots of awareness in the society. A great example of the youth is Fridays for Futures. You will see that there is a movement going on, there is awareness, they are asking for their rights. I mean, they want to have a beautiful earth and a nice place to live in future. But still, I believe it's not enough. How we can enhance that is with a better science communication. I mean, I feel myself as a young scientist, I should better communicate my science and knowledge with the other generations. And in that way, we will bring a trust in science and young scientists. So what actually I would, I'm super glad to see this from actually this initiative to bring the voice of the young scientists and young generation on board, which is it's very important because there will be the future leaders of these movements. And that's why I really congratulate this ICEF community, and I'm very much looking forward to see such these movements and bringing the voice of the young scientists and trusting their knowledge and their responsibility for future. Very much looking forward for more in-depth discussion. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Leila-san. Very good. Yeah, we lack the participation of politicians here. Probably that's what we need to do more in the future. Well, next speaker is Dr. Wan Nam from UFG Bank. And he was in the last plenary session, Energy Transition Leaving Nobody Behind. Dr. Wan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone, my name is Nam Wan and I'm from UFG. So actually, since when I was a student, I actually joined the ICEF as to listen to all the speeches and interesting discussions, and I enjoyed quite a lot about ICEF. At least I think I do not hate ICEF that war. So my point is that I think that during the discussion, in the last session with John here, and we actually reconfirmed the importance of just transition, especially within the framework of the energy decarbonizations, and especially as we already recognize that the soaring energy prices that in the EU, in Japan, and in the United States, and everywhere. So especially in the time that the energy prices are rising and people are getting more and more pressure due to the energy prices rising and the inflations. So it's important that to guarantee that the energy transition should be people-centered. So to respect the people's selections and to incorporate people's civil society in the decision makings, not only in the climate policies, but also in actual projects, in actual not only in research but also infrastructures and power plants in the decision makings. So that is the thing I would like to emphasize that in last session and this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wan-san. The last speaker is Dr. Aditi Velma. She is the doctor in the University of Michigan, and she will speak tomorrow at the Sustainable Nuclear Panel. But unfortunately, she cannot join, but she sent us the video message, so let's listen to her.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aditi Verma. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Michigan in the Department of Nuclear Engineering and Radiological Sciences. I'm so sorry that I'm not able to join you live for this session. There was an unfortunate series of flight changes and cancellations, but I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on the prompt that was sent out to the youth speakers and then contribute to the discussion in that way. So I think that there's a lot of emphasis at the moment on achieving a rapid energy transition. But what I'd like to emphasize, and I'm sure this will come up in the discussion that you all have, is that it's not only important to have an energy transition that's rapid, but also an energy transition that is equitable and just, and one that doesn't leave anyone behind, really, if possible. And so the way in which my research group, or initiative rather, I'm part of the Fastest Path to Zero initiative at the University of Michigan. The way that we think about this is that really there are four important pillars when we think about an energy transition that's rapid, but that's also just. And those 4 pillars are understanding what are the energy needs, preferences, and values of communities. The second pillar is really developing decision support tools and models to be able to support energy planning and decision making at the community and regional level. The third pillar that we think is really important is designing and developing energy technologies and facilities in collaboration with communities where they will be hosted. And the fourth pillar, which is also especially important, I think they're all very important, is understanding the inequities that might have been created over the course of development of the energy systems that exist today. And it's important to understand those inequities and address and repair them as we think about building our low carbon energy systems of the future. So apologies again that I'm not able to be there live. I hope it's a wonderful discussion and I look forward to hearing how it goes.
Thank you, Aditi. Okay, let's have a discussion after these excellent speeches. I will let the floor and moderate the session by Dr. Kuroda here. Kuroda sensei, onegai shimasu.
Okay, thank you very much all for really great speech and give us a thought. Now, we don't have very much time, so perhaps we can concentrate on several topics. Now, under the crisis, they all talk about, and maybe Ms. Catherine mentioned that, and also some other people. Now, if it's under crisis, it's an urgent case, it is relatively easy to talk to community, because if you don't do something, we're going to have a blackout. So please cut down the usage of electricity, sometimes water shortage, please turn your things. However, it's not comfortable. We cannot do it all the time. How can we change that sort of urgent feeling under the crisis feeling to, in a sense, behavior change, to lifestyle, lifelong behavior change? How can we do it? So come up. It's going to be difficult questions as usual. I love it. Anyone, maybe you can speak up and
Okay, yes.
smiling. So.
Yeah, so something I find myself thinking about how important education is for all of this, because as you just said, in a lot of ways, the crises, the negative harms of climate change are already here, and we're already feeling the impacts. And as my other panelists talked about the importance of equity and really lifting people up, I think a huge portion of that is to look around at our societies and look at people who've been ignored and do our best in terms of education, not just in terms of climate change and making people aware of what is happening, but also then putting people in a position where they're more empowered to improve their own situation. Because yes, the issue of climate change and the issue of equity are so closely tied.
Yeah. Yuki-san said in the center of Africa, even they don't feel urgency. So what do you think? It's good to spread these sort of things into even the government in Africa.
Yes, I think it's a little difficult to to disseminate education in Africa. But when they know they're having very serious trouble, for example, the lacking water, if they don't want, but they have to change their practices. So I think one solution is to make concrete image of the crisis and to share then the concrete solution and also the effect, the profit effect. For example, when they do this, they adopt these techniques, they can achieve these results. So when we share the concrete image with them, I think they will feel they have to move and they know what they have to do.
Yes, it's sort of nudging or price incentive may not work. It works, but certain limits. So we may have a nice storytelling or nice scenarios that may be required. But about that, I think Dr. Nayami, you talked about the behavior and the demand side today. So Can you say something about
Sure,
what you think about? Yeah? Good, thanks.
Sure, thanks for the opportunity. Basically, I believe here the important point will be the science communication. I mean, not only with the policymakers, but very much with the public and the society. I mean, we, as I mentioned, we all are together. We are solving these issues and problems together, and we should have a better communication to other people. And the important point other is that, as my panelist also mentions, that is regarding to the education and giving this information out to how they can change their behavior and lifestyle. This could be a long-term process, kind of investing our education from the very, for example, from the children and primary school, or in other kind of fast-track solution would be through the advertisement. We are living in a digital world. I mean, why not we are bringing our voice to the media panels? Nowadays, all of the young generation are super active in different panels like a Twitter, like a LinkedIn. This information, when it goes, then people will become aware and they try to learn. And then one thing, as also we discussed in this afternoon, that every individual action matters and brings the cascading change to the society, because we are learning from each other. I mean, the things that you mentioned about and also nudges, that's a kind of become a norm, and everyone start to changing their behavior and lifestyle. So I think then would be communication would be a key point here, that also maybe I will suggest for ICEF for next year to be more active in media, because I think many of my colleagues and young generation also would like to hear these amazing talks that is started today, but they are not aware of that. So it's kind of to bring more the voice to the other persons, people as well.
Thank you, Dr. Niami. I think science communication is important, but if it comes from young generation like you, that is more impact to the community and also for even younger generation, I think. About the policy things, I think Dr. Burma also says energy transition and things. Can you say something about it? He's not around.
Only recorded statement.
Okay, so I cannot say to speak recorded one. So perhaps then, Dr. Nan, please. You are talking about policies and in energy crisis. So
sure, of course.
Yep.
And I think that the importance of the handling this kind of short-term energy crisis and long-term decarbonization climate target need to strike a balance between the investments as well as Claude mentioned that about the demand side and behavior change. I think that probably leveraging more investment into the energy sector to secure the supply is important, and to make this kind of investment green enough to mitigate the CO2 emission in the long run is a very important task for the financial institute has to comply. As for the side of the demand side change, I think that is definitely important, and I think that the panelists already mentioned that the importance of the younger generation and educations. So the thing is that when we talk about demand side, it's usually coming to my mind is that about deploying more innovative technologies and green products. The thing is that putting more this kind of developing more about the innovative low carbon products important, and how people use it usually matters more in most of the time. So I think I totally agree that the solution is not simply on one side but on both sides.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think demand side intervention is really important to encourage the supply side and also policymakers as well. Now, as a young businessman, started already quite a lot of achievement. Dr. Huri, have you counted or faced with difficulties because a young businessman starting up to these new areas? Give us some. Yeah, please do, because it will show the example for young generation if they want to follow.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So of course the challenges are many being young in this field. But first of all, before maybe expanding a bit more on my personal experience, I would also like to point out the difficulties of a young group of people trying to do something meaningful. So anyone who really it's not compliant with how the current world is going can, let's say, come together and try to do something new, try to change something. And that's where the real difficulty lies, I believe. So a group of young people coming together, trying to really change how things are done, are always looked up from incumbent companies, from incumbent people in a different way. But it's really satisfying to see how with a lot of willpower and a lot of capable people, you can really achieve a lot, even if the experience is maybe restricted and people see you as young. Yeah, so I'm really glad to be part of not only a motivated generation, but also a motivated team of people that are in my, let's say, generation as well, to tackle future problems. And from a personal point of view, yeah, of course, being young in this kind of sector, it's always a challenge, but I think new problems need new people to be solved. So I think it's, the industry is also ready for innovation and young faces.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, Ms. Asano, don't think I forget about you. No, you cannot escape my terrible question. No, you talked about the importance of minerals. Is that okay I speak in English? You have a translate? Okay.
Okay, yes. Yes, yes, of course.
So you talked about the importance of minerals and metals. And actually, as you said, copper is not affluent. You think we use it that so often and everywhere, and copper wires for electricity and things, but actually it's limited and not many years we can use. Also lithium, for example, it's a lithium battery also we start wiring. Then also iridium, also that is going to be short. And copper, for example, if we use the wind power, if you do it on land, it's use less copper. If you do it on the sea, it use more copper. But that is not well known. So there are many things we have to discuss about the wind power, but also the mineral shortage as well. Now, as young scientists and also maybe involved in policy perhaps, how do you want to tell the others, without minerals, you cannot do anything in a sense. That is crucial, but people all talk about how to use nuclear power or fossil fuels or renewable energy, etc. So what is the best way to tell others? How to let other people know and get the feedback about the shortage of important, crucial minerals. Got it?
Yes, thank you for touching minerals. And yes, it's very nice question. And so, as you know, new investment. New investment for wind power generation and so on. So it's very high risk. So private sector needs to support from many investors. However, investors don't take high risks. So government should invest and be low risk. So, for example, I speak in Japanese. 例えば
So for instance, so as I mentioned, the wind power generation, and I'm not in charge of wind power, but let's say the mining sector. In the mining sector, this is quite a high risk because when it comes to the copper mining, it's 10 to 15 years. And also the exploration, let's say, for example, copper deposit is underground, so we may not be able to find that. So as a Japanese government, we are going to put the risk money. So yes, to the private sector, maybe less than a half investment is made by the government so that it can reduce the risk. Sorry, I'm diverting a little bit, but this, what we are going to use. So how we are going to disseminate to the public. First of all, this energy transition is accompanied with the risk. We have to let the people know that there is a risk accompanied with this investment. Dr. Rella mentioned education and advertisement is really important. I totally agree. Yes, we can actually leverage those activities. And also Dr. Wan mentioned the investment. Well, we need to really get the understanding by the demand side. Well, yes, in the certain mining sector, by using green energy, they are actually making a decision on investment if they are using the green energy or not. So education and also trying to have a good PR, that's really important.
It takes a long time, but the science communication, as the Dr. Naimia said, and also investment also, Dr. Nan said, it's very important. Now is the time to get some questions or comments from the steering committee members, the floors. Any one of you, please get some comments. Wu-san. Oh, okay. Whoever. No, he wants to talk. Then, George.
Mic ありますか?
Oh, you can have my mic. You can have my mic.
Yeah, here comes
the microphone. Okay.
Thank you very much for this excellent panel and for the initiative to pull it together. I have a question about new communications technologies and social media in particular.
Identify yourself. Sorry.
Hi, my name is David Sandalo, and I'm a member of the steering committee.
Okay.
I'm from Columbia University. And I think it's one of the big differences between the older generation and the younger generation is you've grown up in a social media environment that's very different than the one I grew up in, I know. And I wonder if you think this has any implications, good or bad, for the energy transition.
Who wants to answer? Okay. Dr. Nan?
Okay, so I would like to share some kind of very personal experience. So I think that before I joined this bank, I was a researcher focusing on their energy modeling as well as the climate policies. So actually, when we do this kind of research, we actually frequently utilizing like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, as well as other social media tools to exchange ideas. For example, a researcher announced, okay, we get a new publication on A, B, C, D, and this work can be referred as, can be defined as what our main conclusions. And then I think that it is becoming much more popular than just reading the academic paper. Like it is always late and it always takes time to publish. But with this kind of new communication tools, it's able to exchange our recent source and to those who are relevant and are curious about. So I think that makes the process much more effective.
Yeah, that's great. You know, ICEF use infographics as well. You know, so just give you very straightly to your emotion, I think, rather than reading sentences. So that we are doing as well, but thank you very much.
I may jump in briefly.
Oh, yes,
I think
please.
social media acts as a kind of amplifier for whatever messages are already floating around in a country, it amplifies them. And I find it interesting to see, for instance, with my family in Germany, I have some family that lives in very rural areas, but it's because of social media that messages, there's this singular conversation happening in Germany, and it's pushing climate action forward. So whether it's good or bad, it depends on the messages, but it's definitely an amplifier.
Yes, there's some misleading messages as well. That's the good part, and really careful. We have to be careful about SNS. Now,
may I add? Oh, sorry.
Okay, Dr. Naimir, you want?
Sorry, I just want to add one point. I totally agree with my colleagues. Actually. It's very important. I think these, as I mentioned, these new generation all are very using all the social media for their daily life. So it's why we are not using this source for bringing our messages in a simple way to them. And for example, I just want to also say that there was a study on that, how the social media and advertisement in general, or bringing this scientific evidence in a simple word to the society, how much has an impact. Actually, it's a completely positive and bringing a lot of impact. But I also agree with you that have also danger of the misleading or misunderstanding when they are bringing the wrong message to the society. So this is also some things that we can track it and find the good way to solve this issue. And also, I would like to also add one more thing. For us as a scientist, actually, this social media, like a Twitter, would be also a place for a data. Coming from the behavior and social science perspective, I can capture all these elements of the human behavior and how they are thinking or believing on particular technology or social innovation through that. So I can also say in that perspective also would be like a very good source for us to understand the human behavior.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Dr. Naimir. Can you do it half a minute?
Oh gosh, I wanted to speak longer actually. Anyway,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, my name is Changhua Wu. I'm a member of the steering committee. You know, I will be quick. I'm from China, so I'll be quick. Two quick comments actually.
Thank you.
One, you know, I definitely have heard this humbleness, right? As a younger generation, you always feel like you need to learn from the seniors, stuff like that. I can tell you very confidently from my personal experience, I feel always humbled as well, particularly looking up to the younger generation, very impressed by your expertise, your desire, interest, passion as well. So that's shared in terms of we do need to learn from each other, cross-generational.
Yeah.
The second point, I think this is a part of the beauty of the ICEF, by having more champions of the younger generation joining this platform. Of course, this is a sharing, discussing thing. I'm very, very sort of appreciative of your sharing of your real life experience. You are in it, right? You are part of the pioneering leadership there. I think that sort of experience learning you bring actually to ICEF, that's really, really valuable. I'm not going to ask any question anymore, just a comment there.
Okay, thank you very much, because you know, I can see the clock in front of me. So that was a great conversation. I really want to ask every steering committee member to say something. They're having very good opinion. However, I have to return to Mr. Tanaka for wrap-up.
No, I don't have any comments. This is wonderful. So generally, I want to ask the young generation, how did you feel about ICEF?
Indeed.
What is your idea about ICEF?
Impression, or how we can improve, or you know, what impression.
We want to use your ideas for the future. I mean, the meetings. So just give us a frank view.
Yeah, very quickly.
About ICEF. Yeah.
You know the timing. So yeah, starting from Asano-san.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
So I'd like like to expect from discussion forum like ICEF? The forum should increase its visibility and output information more widely. The reason is that my colleagues who is in the energy sector didn't know ICEF, so yes, so I think this forum should be better known.
So you'll be an ambassador to
Thank you very much.
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you. So, Anne?
For me, it's been really amazing to be surrounded by people who all know about hydrogen and ammonia and all these topics. Because in the United States, when I try to talk to people about it, there's often a bit of confusion about what it is. And so the expertise that we have in this space is really amazing for me. And I find myself just thinking how we can get the message out, as much as possible.
Yeah, you're a good science communicator.
Okay,
yes?
Okay, it's my just personal opinion, but when I came to here, this hotel, I literally so disappointed. I cannot find African people because African people population grow rapidly, and we have to involve them in the near futures. So what I want to expect on this ICEF is to involve the people in Africa, especially although in the experts or senior expert in Africa, but also involve some people working on the field, so that we can know more detail about what's happening on the field, and to identify what we can do in more specific manners. It's my opinion.
Thank you very much. You had,
There are two Africans, at least I knew, because they are from Egypt. Ismail, he's not here.
He's not here, but the science.
He's one of the steering committee members.
Is from Egypt.
Right.
Sorry,
And South Africa, I mean, Barry is here. He's from South Africa. So we have quite a good representation. I'm sorry that we didn't didn't introduce you.
No.
Yes, perhaps you can talk.
Yes.
After
Sorry,
this
I just
session.
didn't know
Yeah,
this.
I agree. We don't have politicians in this session, and maybe very nice. Anyway, Dr. Nan?
Thank you very much. And I think that ICEF is a perfect place for the idea exchange between the business and academic and policymakers as different fields surrounding a very particular topic. I think it's a very good place to further incorporate more discussions in different regions. I think that's a future direction, but I really enjoyed ICEF very much for years.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Dr. Furi. Mr. Furi? Is he on?
Sorry.
Okay, yes, it's you. You forgot what asked?
Yeah, sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course.
Go ahead.
What is the impression you attended ICEF, but what can be improved? What is lacking? Very quick comment, because we ran out of time already.
My experience is limited. I only participated online, but every people I met, it's really qualified and really professional. So I don't have any critical feedback so far. It was a really smooth logistics, very smooth experience so far. So thank you for everything.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is Dr. Namir.
Yeah, it's very short. I really want to congratulate the ICEF to bringing the gender balance and also intergeneration young scientists also on board. You know that I basically standing next to the people that is kind of my role models, like Professor Joshua Roy or Nike or Husang Ling, Professor Husang Ling, that they are my kind of models that I work in the science policy in a perspective with them. So I'm happy to standing next to them and learning from them. And I hope that this continues bringing more voice of the young scientists and young generation as policymakers and governments as well. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Naimir. So I think I asked everyone, so it's the time is up. So unfortunately, we have to close the session. Do you want to close it? Okay, so but maybe there's someone, but thank you very much for attending this, and also from the floor. I really wanted more time, but after this, you may have a time to talk each other as well. So I'm going to close this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tanaka, Professor Kuroda, and all the youth experts. This is the end of today's sessions.